Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. This presentation, which is a speech, is not going to be long. I am aware that I have not been on this channel for, say, some time. I've usually used the channel Mora Yeshaya Torah lessons, and not so much this channel, Mora Yeshaya history lessons. Nonetheless, brothers and sisters, what we want to go over is this particular matter is concerning deeds that were done or being done within Israel. Let me state first and foremost that I'm not perfect. Let me state first and foremost that I have made errors. Let me state first and foremost that I have done things knowing that it was wrong and still done it. So when I'm speaking upon this particular subject, it is not in the spirit of trying to praise oneself or to insinuate that one is without sin. All right, so that's something I want to point out in that particular case. Recently, I was told about some Israelites during the era that we're dealing with in this time concerning, say, Passover, right? That there were Israelites who went to rent a place, they rented a place out, and afterward was part of the people within a strip club. Brothers and sisters, be it on the Sabbath or holy day, new moon, Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, or any other day, be it said holy day mentioned in Leviticus 23 or not, it is not correct for an Israelite, for a son of Israel, to be at a strip club. Now, as stated, I'm not going to portray or act as if a brother is clean and is without sin. I'm not going to portray that image because, as it says in Proverbs, who can say I am clean of my sin? So in light of that, we want to go over a couple of things. Let's go, if we will, real quick into the Bible. We're going to be reading in Numbers, the 25th chapter, verse 1, if we will. Numbers chapter 25, verse 1, and it reads on this wise. And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods. And the people did eat and bowed down to their gods. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of Yah was kindled against Israel. And Yah said unto Moses, take all the heads of the people and hang them up before Yah against the sun, that the fierce anger of Yah may be turned away from Israel. It goes on to say in verse 5. And Moses said unto Israel, slay ye every one his men that were joined unto Baal Peor. So what can we gather, brothers and sisters, is this. The Baal Peor, for those who care to know, Baal means Lord or master in this case. Peor comes from the root word pa'ar, which means to open. So Baal Peor in Hebrew would be the Lord of the opening. The opening that is talking about is the female organ. That's what it's talking about there in that particular case. If we read carefully in the book of Numbers, it distinctly says what? It says in verse 2, and they called the people unto their sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bow down to their gods. So brothers and sisters, this is not to sound carnal or disrespectful. What was going on is they bowed down, went down and ate of their gods. So we can understand what was going on in that. The daughters of Moab were consulted to go into the camp of Israel to be a snare to the house of Israel. Let's go, if we will, to Numbers 25, verse 18. Let's start in verse 16, Numbers 25, 16. And Yah spoke unto Moses, saying, vex the Midianites and smite them, for they vex you with their wiles, wherewith they have beguiled you in the matter of Peor, and in the matter of Cosbi, the daughter of the prince of Midian, their sister, which was slain in the day of the plague for Peor's sake. So, brothers and sisters, on account or for the sake of what was going on with the matter of Peor, it caused the Levite to raise up against a brother of the tribe of Simeon, a prince of the children of Simeon, and slay him. So, what do we want to point out, if we will, brothers and sisters, in this particular case, is a well being called to their gods, just like they do in strip clubs. If you there, they'll sit there and walk towards you and call out to you, and bowing down or going down to their gods. And brothers and sisters, in this particular case, eating of such. Now, as stated, we don't want to get too far tracked, but we want to understand what the book is talking about in this particular case. So let's go from there, if you will, to Joshua chapter 22. I got the list there. Joshua 22, verse 17. All right, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. Joshua chapter 22, verse 17, and it reads on this wise. Is the iniquity of Peor too little for us, from which we are not cleansed unto this day, although there was a plague in the congregation of Yah? So this is after, brothers and sisters, the Israelites don't wind up going into their land. This is after, brothers and sisters, the Israelites were already being settled within their land. And it still talks about the matter of Peor that we read of in Numbers. Later on in the book of Joshua, still being attached to them. So we want to sit there and understand what kind of matter we were dealing with. Let's go from here, if we will, brothers and sisters. And let us read, if we will, in Psalms chapter 106, please. We are in the scriptures in the book of Psalms 106, verse 28. And it reads on this wise. Psalms 106, verse 28 says this, speaking of Israel. They joined themselves also unto Baal Peor and ate the sacrifices of the dead. All right, so now looking at that in Psalms 106, right, verse 28, kind of clarifies well what we're talking about. Knowing the meaning of the word Baal Peor, knowing, brothers and sisters, that it spoke about them, Israel, joining themselves unto that, and it says they bowed down and they ate. So it ain't too hard to figure out what was being spoken about. The position that the prince of Simeon was killed in by the Levite shows you that he bringing that woman into that tent in Numbers 25, they was about to deal with a sexual act in that particular case. All right, so the Baal Peor, Peor meaning opening, Baal Peor meaning the master of the opening, is talking about worshiping the aspect of the female genitalia. And so the children of Israel, not trying to be disrespectful, apparently weren't used to what Moab and Midian were going to be coming with, that the daughters of Judah don't do, that the daughters of Dan don't do, that the daughters of the Levites don't do, that the daughters of the house of Joseph don't do. As it says in Exodus, it says the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. So, brothers and sisters, let's just look at that, for instance, if you will. It out, right? That says the Hebrew women don't do as the Egyptian women do. Now, I'm not trying to play salesman, but let's look right here real quick. This is one of the books I wrote, Think the Most High, right? Now, let's look at this right here so we can gain an understanding. This here, brothers and sisters, is part of what the Egyptian women were into. This is from the tomb of Ramses VI. Nudity, dancing, as if it's a form of art. And here we see shown here Luke, if you remember Luke, the entertainer from the 1990s, he's on a talk show with sisters, and they are shown dancing basically clad in nude. So, brothers and sisters, Israel is still joining on, sadly, to the ways of the nations in the Baal Peor. Now, I want to emphasize, I'm not perfect. I'm a man, and the beauty of a woman, the spirit of a woman, it is made to attract a man. It does happen. And this is why books such as in the book of Proverbs, it distinctly says what in Proverbs? He who conquers his spirit is greater than he who conquers a city. So if you are being shown during the Feast of Unleavened Bread with your fringes on, whether or not you deal with Paleo or modern writing of Hebrew, with your kai piece on, the word kai meaning life, brothers and sisters, with your mitri on, with your garments on, if you will, and you are out there in a strip club, holy day or not, Memorial Day or not, with your fringes on or without your fringes on. Now, I took my outer shirt off, all right, for this presentation, but I have the shirt that, yes, I'll be wearing that has my fringes upon it, all right? So just want to show that because sometimes you wonder, oh, we never see your shy teeth with his fringes, but yes, I do wear them. And so my point, nonetheless, brothers and sisters, is again not trying to defame anybody, not trying to castigate anybody, not trying to say that anyone, you understand, is without sin. But at the same token, brothers, not trying to be disrespectful, Sakari, you know better, Ak. Y'all brothers know better than that, man. Speaking as a man, y'all brothers know better than that. Gorilla Hebrew, my brother, you bought this book for me verbatim when we was meeting up in Brooklyn years ago. You bought this for me. And from what I heard, you advertised this book for me. And I appreciate that support. So my brother Gorilla Hebrew, not to sit there and play holier than thou, but you knew better than to be up in some strip club. Now, my books obviously do not come close to the word of the Most High, as in the Torah. And we want to read, brothers and sisters, part of this matter here. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 19, if we will. Leviticus 19, and we're going to read in verse 29. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall into whoredom, and the land become full of wickedness. What are we reading? Prostitute not thy daughter to cause her to be a whore. This is where people get the understanding that you're not to make whores out of the daughters of Zion. Obviously, also what we read in other cases. See, sexuality in the laws of the Most High is spoken about. When a man is with the woman intimately and he ejaculates, he is in a state of being unclean according to the laws of Leviticus. This is why it is not correct, brothers and sisters, to be intimate sexually on the Sabbath. For one, it is a manner of work. Two, you become unclean. Three, if you try to be intimate with your lady on the Sabbath, but then say, oh, you're not going to do it to the point of you climaxing or ejaculation. We want to read this law right here in the book of Exodus. Because not to trying to be nasty or anything of that sort, there is a thing, brothers and sisters, called pre-ejaculation, which also causes a man to be unclean, which you do not feel in most cases as a male when you're with a woman. So how can you be with a lady intimately regarding that matter and then say you're going to, quote, pull out before you, because there is like you would say that concerning the Shabbat matter. That's incorrect behavior. We understand, brothers and sisters, that Onan, the son of Judah, he had sexual relations with Tamar, and then he, quote, pulled out and he spilled his seed. That wasn't something that was respected in the house of Israel. You understand? So if you're going to go into the woman, you best know good and well that you are now in that way, in part, becoming one. That doesn't mean that sex is marriage. What it means is that it is the confirmation or the consummation of it. That means there are other things that go along prior to the sexual act for that marriage to already be. In the Bible, in Genesis chapter 29, Jacob said, give me my wife that I may know her. Speaking of Rachel. So that means before he even was intimate with Rachel, she was already his wife because he put that work in, as far as working for her to get her. So these are things we want to point out in that regard. In the book of Exodus, chapter 21, if you will, we are in Exodus chapter 21, right? And we want to read regarding this kind of matter here. Exodus, the 21st chapter, and we're going to start, pardon me, we are going to start in verse 9. Exodus 21, verse 9. And if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her according to the manner of daughters. If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. So we all know already from Exodus chapter 21, verse 10, regarding if you want to talk about polygyny, if you will, there are certain things that if you take another wife, right, to engage in polygyny, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage. Duty of marriage is conjugal rights. Conjugal rights in here in the book of Exodus in the Hebrew is the word onata. The word onata, brothers and sisters, comes from the root word ina. Ina in Hebrew, brothers and sisters, means to afflict. When a man lays with a woman, and by that I mean actual penetration, that is a form of affliction upon her. This is why, not to sound too far out there, you find the breaking of the hymen, which bleeds. You find an aspect of it at first may not, quote, feel the best to her, but then the pain goes from one step to the other. Just bringing it out like that, if we will. So, brothers and sisters, you can't be into a relationship or marriage with a woman, then get a second wife, and then start diminishing what you was doing with your first wife. That's why polygyny, like for myself, is not for everyone. Because I personally, not to speak of myself, I can't mentally juggle that in my head. Now, I claim the tribe of Dan, which means that ancestor-wise, Bilhah would have been and is my ancestor on the maternal side. Bilhah was Jacob's concubine. So I can't claim the tribe of Dan of the house of Israel and then hate on polygyny. Can't do that. Because I'm claiming a tribe that came through the aspect of polygyny. You understand? Now, at the same token, it says in Proverbs, if you are wise for yourself. So that means that if you know yourself that you're not built mentally or otherwise for polygyny, don't do it. Don't do what you're not built for. Don't try to do things as the scriptures teach you that are too mighty for you. Not being able to do polygyny. But now let's get back to this. And like I'm stating, I'm not trying to castigate, disrespect, or call anyone out or anything of that sort. But brother, Gorilla Hebrew, I've met you in person. We may not even agree on everything as far as doctrine is concerned. Nonetheless, if you're dealing with the aspect, if you will, right, of holy days, when you're with your camp, when you're in your garments, your fringes, your mitri, if you will, that's no place for the sons of Israel to be inside of the strip club. Joshua sent the spies out in Joshua chapter 2, and they went to the harlot's house. Rahab's mindset was, save me and my family, and that's it. You want to kill the rest of my nation, do what you do, Israel. So, brothers and sisters, with that mentality, with that mindset, all right, we want to have it to be noted. We wanted to have it to be noted and understood. The mindset, say, of Rahab wasn't for a nationalistic purpose. Rahab was a harlot. A harlot is a whore. We ain't going to use other words, but we know what it is. A whore doesn't care about her nation. If she get a disease, she don't mind passing it. So, brothers and sisters, in that particular case, the spies knew where to go because, not to be funny, they knew where the weakest link of the nation was with the whore. They were streetwise to know to go to the harlot's house. You understand? So, looking at that, when you go into a strip club, brothers, those are whores. Even if you're not dealing with them carnally, they do lap dances. Lap dances can cause erections for a male, which can cause pre-ejaculation for some males, or, quote, climax fully. Now you unclean on the time in your garments, if you will. You understand? So when she goes from one person giving a lap dance to the next person to give a lap dance, what are you doing? What are you saying of your own self? Now, of course, all of us are not Levites, all right? But we want to read something concerning what the priests were to deal with regarding the matter of this. Let us go, if you will, to the book of Leviticus, all right? We are in Leviticus. We're going to read in chapter 21, if we will, verse 1. And it says this. And the Lord, Yah, spoke unto Moses, speak unto the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say unto them, there shall none be defiled for the dead among his people. Now, it goes on concerning Aaron and his sons, right? The priests, that is. It says this, and it goes on to say, right? Leviticus 21, verse 13. and he shall take a wife in her virginity, a widow or a divorced woman, or profane, or a harlot. These shall he not take, but he shall take a virgin of his own people to wife. Neither shall he profane his seed among his people, for I, Yah, do sanctify him. Now, of course, we know that all of us are not of the house of Aaron. All of us are not even Levites. But for brothers who do claim the tribe of Lewi, or they'll say Lahwa, or Lahya, however you say Levi or Levi in Hebrew, to the best of one's understanding of Hebrew. Brother, gorilla, Hebrew, if you claim in the tribe of the Levites, could you perhaps be of the house of Aaron? And if you are of the house of Aaron, there's no reason why brothers should be around women that are, as it says here, a widow, divorced, profane, or a harlot. Do you know what a profane woman is? In Hebrew, it's called kalala, from the word kilel, which is profane, or too profane, sorry. The word kilel means too profane. That is what we, as the sons of Israel, are not supposed to be. When we read, for instance, brothers and sisters, and as stated, I want to emphasize this. A brother that's talking to you on YouTube live is not perfect. I am not perfect. You understand? And so I don't want it to be a thing like, oh, well, is the brother Yeshaya trying to present himself? He's sinless once it comes down to women? Absolutely not. You understand? But at the same token, brothers and sisters, we have to raise the bar and set a standard. And when you are speaking about the word of the Most High to his people, and then doing contrary or opposite, just let us all see that as a sign. The Most High will expose it. So, as noted, let us all repent from any wickedness or evil or iniquities that we have done. I stated yet again, brothers in the camp, California or otherwise, don't go to no strip clubs. The women in them strip clubs don't respect dudes. They laugh at dudes who go to strip clubs. Don't ask me how I know. But yeah, they laugh at dudes who go to strip clubs. And you understand what I'm saying? Once it comes down and throwing, if you will, not trying to be funny, and throwing this around, this is all that these harlots that's in that place think about. You see this dude here? Yeah, we use it as currency. That's Jackson. Because they was going to put Harriet Tubman, but that seemed to stop for the moment. He owned slaves, man. Over 200 or so. You see this dude here? This is Lincoln. Lincoln is said to have freed the slaves, supposedly, even though Juneteenth did not happen until after his death. Because Lincoln's wife come from a slaveholding family. You understand? So with that being the case, when you are, quote, using this and making it rain, as the saying goes, those women laugh at you. Brothers. I'm speaking to brothers in general. The women who are in these strip clubs that people go and entertain with or without a mask on or whatever like that, they laugh at you. They say that you can't be at home and happy, so you got to go and pay for entertainment through somebody whom you don't know from a hole in the wall. That's what they think about you. They don't respect you. If you're going to use your money that your brothers work hard for, use it something that's going to profit and respect you. Spend it on a woman that will cherish you and respect you. Because those women in the strip clubs, they don't respect nada. You ain't throwing them bills up there. And like I said, don't ask me how I know. If you go to them strip clubs and you ain't throwing them bills on the stage, they'll ask you to leave. Shalom. Most High bless. We shall speak again. Thank you for watching and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments. Shalom.